Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello there and welcome once again to the WP Builds podcast. You have reached episode number 284, entitled Strattic and Elementor Talk About the Recent Acquisition. It was published on Thursday, the 23rd of June, 2022. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and just a few bits of housekeeping before we begin the main content. I don't know if you've headed over to the Page Builder Summit this week. It is, of course, Thursday. That means that there's basically one day left, the remainder of Thursday and Friday. You can find it at pagebuildersummit.com. There's a whole load of stuff happening on Friday, so be sure to check it out. Essentially, what I'm saying is if you have missed out, fear not, there's still some content left, and there's still actually a chance to buy all of the content with the Power Pack upgrade. So once more, pagebuildersummit.com. Also, if you're into the WP Builds podcast and you'd like to keep updated, head over to our page, wpbuilds.com/subscribe. And over there, you're going to find all of the bits and pieces for keeping you updated when we release new content. Typically, we do a podcast on a Thursday. That's what you're listening to now. And also, the live This Week in WordPress show happens 2 p.m. UK time every single Monday, and we'd love to have you come join us and make comments. Hopefully, we'll be there this coming Monday. The WP Builds podcast was brought to you today by GoDaddy Pro. GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with The Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. You can find out more by going to go.me/WP Builds. That's go.me/WP Builds. And we thank GoDaddy Pro for helping us to keep the lights on at the WP Builds podcast. Okay, what have we got on the show for you today? Well, something a little bit different. Normally, we record the episodes several days, possibly weeks, sometimes even months in advance, because the nature of the episode won't really change. However, this is what you might call a scoop. It's a burning hot topic. This week, it was announced that Elementor had purchased Strattic. Strattic is a headless hosting company. Elementor, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, is a page builder. And so we've got two people who are intimately connected with this deal. We've got Miriam Schwab from Strattic and Amitai Gat from Elementor. They're here to talk about how the whole thing went down. When was it decided that this would be a good idea? How long did it all take? What's happening in the future? And what's the play for Elementor buying a host, given that they've already got a cloud hosting environment set up? It's an excellent episode with all sorts of interesting bits and pieces, and you get a bit of a behind-the-curtain view of what went on. I hope that you enjoy it. I am joined on the podcast today by Miriam Schwab and Amitai Gat. Hello, both of you.
Hello.
Hey, Nathan.
It's going to be one of those things, because we're doing audio and we've got no visual cues. It's going to be like, who's going to speak first? So don't worry about cross-talking. I can edit out the mistakes later. But we're on the podcast today to speak about, well, it's kind of like some hot news, because not normally on the podcast do we have things which are kind of critical this week or last week or what have you. But this news item came across my email inbox, and I thought it'd be really nice to get both somebody from Elementor, which is Amitai, and somebody from Strattic, which is Miriam, to talk about the acquisition of Strattic, which is a web hosting company, by Elementor. Just a couple of things first, just to paint some context. I'm going to go to Miriam first. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and obviously, don't tell us about something that I might ask you about later in terms of what you're going to be doing now.
Okay, I won't spill the beans. Hello, I'm Miriam Schwab. I am the co-founder and former CEO of Strattic. And the reason I say former is because now that Strattic has been acquired by Elementor, my new title is head of Strattic. which is on the one hand kind of a funny title because it doesn't like describe a function, but on the other hand, it's actually very apt to what I'm going to continue to be doing. I co-founded Strattic about 4 years ago after I founded and managed a WordPress development agency for over a decade, building custom WordPress solutions for a lot of large organizations, tech companies, and nonprofits, and really wanting to solve some of the pain points around managing WordPress, and came across this emerging trend of static site generators and headless, became very excited about it, thought maybe we can bring these two worlds together. And that was where I came up with the concept for Strattic. Strattic we've been servicing many customers over the last years, also including very large organizations, publicly traded companies, tech companies, governments, and nonprofits like the UN. And now we're excited to be taking Strattic to the next stage as part of Elementor.
Wow, that's such a great story. By the way, did you say your new role is head of Strattic?
Yes.
Can I just
I'm head of
say that you
Strattic.
missed a trick there,
Headless
didn't you?
of
Should it
Strattic.
not be the headless of Strattic? Wouldn't that be?
I think we need to write like head and then in brackets less.
Yeah. You've got to do it. You've got to do
hilarious.
it.
I know.
thank
We're missing an
you.
opportunity there.
Yeah, thank you for the thanks for the update. And wow, what an amazing journey you've had. An equally amazing journey has been had by Elementor on the other side. But Amitai, just dwelling on you personally, just give us a bit of background to you and WordPress and whatnot.
Okay, so so I started with I got into WordPress around almost 12 years ago. So building website, was working as a freelancer, built a lot of websites using WordPress, and then kind of slowly got into engineering. Did that for a while. Got into product leadership, and then when I came across Elementor, just the combination of doing product and engineering, and in the WordPress ecosystem is just I had to go for that, and then now I'm here and I'm leading the product organization here at the company.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, nice story. So, Miriam, just before we get stuck into the weeds of it all, you talk about headless and the fact that you came across this emergent technology a little while ago. Whilst many of the people listening to this podcast will have an understanding of what headless means, I've got a feeling that there'll be a proportion, a significant percentage who may have heard the word, may not, but don't actually understand what the difference is between a traditional host and a headless-based host like Strattic is. Could you just do a quick job of explaining how it differs?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so when you have a regular WordPress website, what is happening there is that you've got the front end of the site, which is what everyone visits and views when they reach your website. And then you have the admin area or back end of the site, which is where you manage your content. And those two parts of the site are tightly intertwined in WordPress and often referred to as a monolithic architecture. And that architecture brings a lot of power to users in that you can make updates in the admin and then just press publish and immediately see the results on the front end. And that gives you a lot of control over the appearance of your site and also enables a lot of different types of plugins and integrations that bring a lot of power to the user. So that type of monolithic architecture, which is generally running on what's called the LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, is hosted on standard LAMP stack supporting servers. And that's how it's been done for the last, 20 years. WordPress is 19 years old now, but let's say even before that, there were already PHP-driven sites. And so running on standard LAMP-based stacks, and that's how your WordPress site generally, or until today, has been run. So on the one hand, you have all of the power of WordPress, like I mentioned. On the other hand, when you're running the site in that format, you're kind of exposing it to a lot of different issues that repeat themselves, and many WordPress users may be familiar with them. So, for example, your site may feel sluggish or particularly get slow under load. And that's because of this monolithic architecture, because your front end is so tightly intertwined with the back end. When the back end is struggling to serve up the pages, that impacts the front end. So you might have issues around performance, around scaling the site for load, and then also security issues. Because you have so many moving parts and components, and they're also directly connected to the front end of your site, if there's a security issue, that will become apparent on the front end of your site, and it will impact it. And security issues are painful because it can damage your reputation. It can take a lot of time and resources to repair. It can damage your site's organic rankings, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the challenge with running WordPress in the standard way, and as it's been done until today. Strattic comes to rethink that whole thing. And our approach says the front end is really all that users need to see when they're visiting your site. There isn't really any reason, most of the time, we can get to that, for the back end to be there too. It's the back end is there. Let's say you have a regular website and you wrote a blog post. So you wrote the blog post, you published it. Now you don't need that back end there anymore until the next time you want to update your site. But it's always there. And that always means that the site is relatively sensitive to different factors on the web. So we're saying the front end is really all that users need. Let's just slice that right off of that back end and only deliver that to users. And the back end, the WordPress admin area, is still accessible to users, but only to the users who need it, like team members or whatever, or content creators or managers. They can access it, but the rest of the internet only visits the front end. And that's where the term headless comes into play. So headless means that the head, which is the front end of the site or the visual side of the site, is actually completely disconnected from the back end. And that is what is referred to when you're talking about a headless architecture. So that's Strattic's approach. We allow users to use WordPress as usual, use the plugins they like, use Elementor, for example. We have great support for it, and we've made sure we had support for it from the beginning. Click our Strattic Publish button. All your changes are deployed to the static replica of the site, the headless, it's headless, it's decoupled. And that's what the internet views. The site looks the same, acts the same, feels the same, except for it's faster, scalable, you never have to worry about load, security issues become relevant, and you get the best of all worlds.
It's a really, yeah, that's so well done, by the way. It's a difficult subject to sort of grapple to the ground, but I think you did that really brilliantly. So let me just clear up a few things on my end, just so that the listeners are sure. So basically, you've got a WordPress website which behaves on the admin side, but it's totally separate from what the users see. You log into WordPress, but you have to wait a few seconds whilst that version of WordPress, if you like, is spun up on some kind of VPS or something like that. You make your modifications, save it, and then some voodoo happens, some magical Strattic magic that saves what the pages will, the output HTML, JavaScript, CSS, it saves that somewhere, stores it somewhere else, and only those bits are used when a visitor comes to the site, and the WordPress install is kind of taken offline, so it's unavailable, it can't be attacked, and so on and so forth.
You did a very good job of explaining it.
Okay.
Yes, that's
exactly
it.
The
WordPress site is in a containerized, that's the technical term, it's a containerized environment. Yep. And that it isolates it as needed, and also it can shut down when not in use, which adds another layer of security, and by the way, also has environmental benefits. Because why should that just keep running? I don't know if you know the metrics around environmental impact of running servers, but we're just shutting it down and not using those resources. Yeah. It's not good. It's not pretty. Yeah. So there's that. And yes, and when our users spin up the container, make their changes, that WordPress site is a monolithic architecture. So they do get to, make changes and immediately see it on the front end, but at that point, only they see it in that WordPress site. They click the button, the voodoo, as you said, happens, generates a static replica that's just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So you get the front end, it's just completely disconnected from the back end, resolving a lot of those issues that we discussed.
Yeah. My recommendation would be, if you're curious to know more, this podcast is not about the technicalities of Strattic, but if you're curious to know more, then go and Google Strattic, which, by the way, is STRATT, 2 T's, IC, and then you can discover all of the benefits and the reasons why. The podcast today, though, is going to focus on the acquisition of that. And so you two companies at some point in the past met. I think we're going back quite a long way. It might be as much as a decade or more. I don't know if Amitai or Miriam want to just paint the story quickly of how it all began and when things turned from you're an Israeli WordPress company, hello, so are we, into more like, I wonder if we could start thinking about talking about working more closely. When did the story begin, and how long ago was it that you started chattering about acquisitions and mergers and so on?
So When I was managing my agency, I also organized the local WordCamps conferences in Israel. I did 5 of them. And I think it was the first one that I organized or the second one, I can't remember. Ariel and Yoni, who are the co-founders of Elementor, they attended. And at the time, they were either still working, they also had an agency. And that agency eventually transitioned into a company or a product that they called Pojo. It was a theme kind of marketplace or whatever, like a theme offering. Actually, I at the time thought that their themes were really good. And I wasn't a fan of commercial themes as an agency owner because, as I'm sure you know, they often come with like 1,000 options.
Yeah.
And you end up using 2, and then you have all this just like garbage sitting around in your themes. But their themes were actually really well coded and really clean. So we met back then, and then the next WordCamp I organized, they were already working on Pojo for sure, and they sponsored, and I was so excited they were sponsoring. Also, I really enjoyed supporting the local WordPress community. So whenever I saw success happening, I was really happy. So we connected around that, and then over the years, we'd just meet up at conferences either here in Israel or like when we were flying, let's say to WordCamp Europe, we'd end up on the same flights or we'd like stay in hotels near each other. And also Yoni and Ariel and we only eat kosher food, which means that a lot of the time when we're overseas, we're very hungry. So we would bond over going in search of kosher food together.
Ah.
Yeah, that was pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
And so we became like friends over the years. And then when I founded Strattic, pretty quickly we realized that we needed to support Elementor because more and more people were coming to us, users, and they were using Elementor and they wanted to keep using Elementor because it brought them so much value. So we invested in supporting it, including supporting Elementor forms, which if you understand like the static architecture that we're generating, a form isn't a natural fit, but we made sure that we support their forms. And, every time we'd run into each other, I would tell them about the support that we were increasingly rolling out. And we started having a shared Slack channel with their dev team to work on the plugin and, get help from them around certain things we needed answers to. And then we started working on a partnership, which made a lot of sense. Partnerships can be win-win where each company is kind of like promoting the other and working together on co-marketing or like different, product related initiatives. And that was exciting. And then at some point, they surprised me and Josh Lawrence, my co-founder, and said, you know what, we should acquire you.
And you spat out your food at that point.
Basically, if I had food in my mouth, it would have been spat across the room. I was like, what? Really? Okay. Okay, so let's explore that. And, well, I don't know if you know, but like these types of things, they take a really long time. So it wasn't like that conversation happened and then the deal was closed. It's consideration, discussion, conversation. What does this mean? Should we, shouldn't we? What does it mean for them? All this kind of stuff. But eventually we all came to the place where it just made a lot of sense for everyone. They really value what we're doing and bringing to the market and the industry, and believe in our vision and want to really work to support our vision. And they're a great company. The more I got to know them, the more excited I got about working with them. The people on their team were so nice and helpful and friendly, which is really important to me and Josh, and also for the rest of our team, including Amitai, who's been really nice and great to work with since we met. So it just started to make a lot of sense, and we moved forward, and here we are.
It's such a nice story. Well, the piece that I like about that story is the friendship angle, the fact that it's born out of a real world meeting. The fact that you were both teams, if you like, the Elementor founders and you, both into WordPress, attending events, they sponsored you, helped out, and you obviously, like you said, you bonded, you became friendly. You don't normally see that piece in an acquisition story. Basically, it always seems to be about, we've acquired something to bolster our offering or what have you. Very rarely have I heard it been explained in such compelling terms. I just think that's really, really cool. Yeah, that's lovely. How long did it actually take, though? Just to give us some idea, anybody who's never been involved in a merger or an acquisition, roughly speaking, how far back was that first moment where you spat your food out?
That is a really good question. I think, you know what? I don't know. It was like, let's say within the last 6 months. And then once we did, the last few months are blurred in my mind because,
Yeah.
you mentioned that us being friends and that's a unique angle to this acquisition story. And I have to say, I don't know how anyone works on an M&A deal when they're not friendly. Seriously, because people don't know like what it's like exactly behind the scenes. And I know this is not only the case for us. I've heard it from everyone who's gone through an M&A. When we started the M&A process, a friend of mine who knew about it, he came to me, he said, "Listen, Miriam, you're about to go through one of the hardest and most stressful periods of your life." And I was like, "Why? But everyone's so nice. It's gonna be fine." But like lawyers and this and that, it's really, really painful and stressful. But I think one of the reasons we could get through it is because, we have a strong level of trust and, we have this history. And so you can get through a lot of the hard parts of it when you've got that. I don't know how people do it when they're like strangers.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't remember exactly when the first conversation happened, and there was like stopping and starting. I think the whole thing came together over the course of a few months. It moved pretty quickly once we decided to move ahead with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll drill down into the details of what all that looks like. Amitai, first sort of real question for you, I suppose, is do you have an understanding, I'm assuming that you do, of what the reasoning was that instead of carrying on being partners, what was the reasoning behind the sentence, "We would like to acquire you"? What exactly was going on the Elementor side? Why acquire a hosting company? Curiously, the acquisitions that I've seen over the last, I don't know, couple of years, and there's been many, it's always the other way around. It's always the hosting company acquiring the thing, whereas this one it's the thing acquiring the hosting company. So that's really curious. But tell us the reasoning behind buying a static headless WordPress hosting company.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, like Miriam said, we've been friends for a long time, and Miriam is here a lot, and we talk a lot about that. And we've been at Elementor, we've been kind of looking at what's going on in the Jamstack and the headless kind of scene with a lot of interest, right? And we think that there's a lot of potential there, and in the WordPress ecosystem, which our ecosystem, Strattic is the Jamstack, right? Like this is headless. So obviously, whenever Miriam was here, she and I had a lot of conversations about that. We really believe in the value that it provides, and kind of the intro was very technical, but the bottom line is that there's a lot of value that Strattic and that technology can deliver to users, especially in WordPress. And it's amazing, right? So we've been looking at it with a lot of interest, and again, we've been talking, and at some point we just said it. I think that right now, and that question probably will come up later, but even though we want to keep it as separate offerings, we can imagine a lot of synergies that can be very, very interesting, and again, we just believe that this is kind of perfectly aligns with the mission of Elementor, to empower web creators, and we just at some point realized that it's better that this is just part of the company, and we can do this together, and we can work more closely, and just find those synergies.
Yeah. So typically when I hear about an acquisition, the story goes something like this: big company buys smaller company, and then keeps smaller company, maybe takes on the staff of the smaller company, but keeps it as a thing. Not typically does it roll it up into their bigger product. And I'm just wondering, it felt to me as if the chatter over the last week has been around, okay, what's Elementor going to do with this now that they've got their hands on it? What are they actually going to do? Is this going to be part of like a cloud platform that you can, I don't know, go to the Elementor website and choose a cloud offering, which you already have, but also, well, here's a variant of the cloud offering. If you'd like to go headless, you can do all of that. In other words, are you going to consume it as to be part of Elementor, something that works with Elementor? Or is it just going to stay a completely separate entity and everybody will go to the Strattic website and do the thing over there and then come back and marry it with their Elementor-based website?
Yeah, so like I said, for now, the intention is to keep it as two separate offerings. We like Miriam said, like we've been working together even before. Like there's a lot of we had a Slack channel. There were things that we did in Elementor to make sure that it can work with Strattic better. But right now, we just intend to keep it as separate offerings. And yeah, it's going to help us to expand our offering. And I think that Strattic has different type of customers. But yeah, right now there's no plan to gobble anything up. We're just going to keep it as separate offerings and search for those synergies wherever we can.
Okay, so things basically from the point of view of a customer of Strattic's at the moment, nothing changes. There's no plans in that direction. Miriam, in terms of the things that you had to think about during the merger and acquisition, obviously you've got employees and staff and a team and what have you. Were there things that you fought for in the deal, as it were, or things that you wanted to happen in the deal? What I'm basically asking is what's happening to your staff?
There were a few things that were really important to us in the deal, and one was continued excellent service for our customers. Our customers really love our product and really love our customer success team, and rightfully so. It's led by Rebecca Markowitz, and she's amazing. And so we wanted to make sure that we could continue to service them as we were, and that our team would find a new home at Elementor, and we could continue working together. Lucky for us, that's exactly what Elementor wanted. It was not. Nice. They were like, you are a unit. We want you to stay together. You work great together. Like, why mess with success, essentially? And so we were very fortunate that our team found a very nice new home in Elementor. So we get the benefits of being part of a larger organization that has more resources and, let's say teams set up for specific things that we at the moment don't have we're not set up for. But at the same time, we as a team, we really love working together, and we really like each other. So we get to retain that, and that's really fun and really great for all of us.
So everybody's being kept on and is transferring over. This is a total aside, and forgive me, geography may play nothing to do with it, but I'm just wondering if you're actually close to each other in physical terms. Like, is where you live, Miriam, close to where the Elementor offices are and things like that?
It's a good question. So we are a company that our roots are in Jerusalem, and Elementor's office is in a city called Ramat Gan, which is close to Tel Aviv. Jerusalem and Tel Aviv are not like actually that far from each other, but if you add in traffic and whatever, it's a big deal. And also they're very, very different cities. So we had our office in Jerusalem. It was a great office, but when COVID happened and we saw our team members were not interested in coming to hang out together and give each other COVID, we shut down the office and we transitioned into being a fully remote company. We already were semi-remote before that, and we have team members overseas who are very, very important members of our team. So we already had some of that culture in place, but then we fully implemented that and we went remote. So it's not like we were going to one office and now we're going to another.
Right.
But because we're a Jerusalem-centric company, unlike most Israeli tech companies, it all is happening in the Tel Aviv area. So we were different. Most of us are coming from outside of that area. Luckily, there's trains. My drive is not the best, but Elementor is also flexible. Also, I think because of Corona. So Our goal is that the Israeli team will meet up once a week at the Elementor office, which is actually really nice for us, even though we all have to travel, let's say, farther than maybe is ideal. But we miss each other. So finally we can sit together and work together and have lunch together and nice things like that. And, I would plan on going in a few more times a week, and others can come in when they want, but we can also work from home. So it's a great kind of hybrid situation, which really works for us.
Soon after the Elementor, soon after the Elementor team moved into their office, Amitai was on our Monday show, and he gave us a guided tour. it was really nice. He got his camera out. He went onto his phone, and you took the laptop around the office. That was it. It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, it was lovely. So yeah, what a nice environment to be in. Miriam, I've got to ask. I know that you're going along for the ride. I'm just wondering what's kind of in this for you. Is it that you were feeling the pressure of it? It was obviously a total surprise when they offered to purchase it from you and your co-founder. But what were you hoping to get out of this deal, and how will it change your life? Is it about managing stress more, having a bit more time available to you?
It's a very good question, and the answer is kind of complicated. So I'll try to do my best. This new situation, on the one hand, allows me to continue pursuing my vision of bringing headless, static, Jamstack philosophy to the WordPress industry, which I don't feel like I've fulfilled or completed. I feel like there's so much more we can and should do, and in many ways, we were only just getting started. So, for me, it's really important that I get to keep doing that, and as the head of Strattic, I can continue leading that initiative. And that's on the one hand. For me, work has always been about I have to be excited and interested in what I'm doing and always learning. And I know that at Elementor, I'm going to have the opportunity to learn a heck of a lot more even than I've learned until now. And wow, over the last 4 years, it's been the most intense boot camp training of my life. but I know I'm going to be able to learn much more, expand my skills in different ways, and I'm excited about that. And then on the other hand, founding a startup and managing it, it's very, very demanding. And I would have done this for many more years to come. I didn't even think about another option. So I would have kept doing that. But now that we are in this situation, what I can say, in retrospect, is that I am excited that also in my new position, I can fully focus on Strattic and not do a lot of the stuff that you have to do when you're running any kind of company. There's so many things: accounting, legal, HR. I don't even know. And I mentioned before that they have teams set up with specific skill sets. We all have to wear so many hats. So I was I became an expert in HubSpot, and I also was trying to do our paid ads, and I was also doing our social media, and I'm also working on the product, and also and I was also, we had investors, so that also demands time. There's a lot of stuff that takes up time, and then it doesn't allow you to focus on what I really got into this to do, which is to build this product, make it amazing, help people use something that helps them, and that they love. And I think in this new situation, I can actually fully or mostly fully do that, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm not being ridiculous here, Miriam. I genuinely had concern for the amount of sleep you were getting, because you were literally everywhere and always around, weren't you? I mean, that is meant as a compliment. I hope you take it as such. But I did feel like, running that thing and trying to bootstrap it's no mean feat, is it? And just being able to take the foot not entirely off the pedal, but slow that side of things down, and also be able to say, do you know what? Now there's somebody else in my bigger team now that can take the responsibility for the social media and for the legal, all the bits that whilst you did them and they were a necessary thing to do, they probably weren't what you really wanted to be doing at the time.
It's not what I really want to do, and also I'm not great at those things. Those people who do it on a full-time basis, they're great at it. That's their area of expertise. So let people do these things who are better than me. It's great, and I'll try to do what hopefully I'm best at, and yeah, and take the foot off the pedal a bit. I'm also, a mom, so my kids are like, wait, so you're not going to have calls till like 10, 11 p.m. with California anymore? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, but definitely not at the same rate.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
there'll be less
yeah,
of them. Um,
yeah.
just shifting gears to the Elementor side of things. Firstly, Amitai, it's been probably a while since we spoke, and so probably a lot has changed. Just fill us in on the last year or so of Elementor. Tell us what's been happening, what new things, new initiatives have come down the pipe with Elementor.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. In a year, can barely keep up with
Yeah,
what's
I think
happening in
that's
a
about.
month,
I
you
think
know?
that's probably whenever you moved into your office. That's the last time I think we spoke. Well, apart from the brief aside that we had at WordCamp Europe just the other day, where I won a rubber ball, and then the guy came after me won an iPad. I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted.
Yeah. So we've actually moved the offices 2 years ago, so it
Ah, it's
it
two
would be a
years now.
long time now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just rolling with our builder. We're investing a lot in the existing product, also looking at the future. Um, you've heard about the containers feature that we're kind of working on right now. I think
Hmm.
it's really exciting, changing a lot of how we're going to do things. So it's kind of like the basis for a lot of things that we're planning to do up ahead, and just keeping our focus on the builder. And obviously, one of the most exciting things that happened is that we launched our cloud website offering,
Yes.
um, which again, this is um, you know the way I look at it is just we're continuing to investing in help our users build the websites, whereas hosting is something that you need to have. So this allows us to again expand our offering and help everything more streamlined and help our users with their challenges. And again, this is I think that we're again Strattic. This is very interesting. This is again aligns with the line with again helping our users with their challenges and
The
just empowering them to create websites better.
Yeah, I think that was one of the curious things that kept coming up in the sort of social commentary that I was seeing after the announcement just a week or so ago was the sort of trying to understand where the current cloud offer fits with the new Strattic thing. And obviously you've cleared that up. We now know that for the foreseeable, at least anyway, the two things are going to, the Elementor cloud offering is going to be there. The Strattic headless offering will be over there, and they're going to be separate. So I think that's cleared that up really well. Just on the growth of Elementor, it was curious. Maybe it was more like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Joost, as in the man Joost de Volk, he produced a piece where he was bringing into question whether or not the growth or the market share of WordPress for the first time had taken a bit of a dip. We were up to 43 point something percent. And since statistics have been gathered, that number has always gone up. It's never, ever taken a south turn, but it did. And what was curious, digging into that a little bit more, is that it would appear that for the longest period of time, years and years and years, Elementor's growth is WordPress's growth, which sounds like a really strange thing to say. But if you took Elementor out of the WordPress ecosystem, I'm not sure what the growth for WordPress would have looked like. In other words, Elementor has been driving the adoption of WordPress by new users, and that's totally remarkable.
Yeah, it's that hasn't changed since we've last spoken. That the growth here has been very very intense. Miriam and I just had a conversation about that yesterday about about WordPress and the growth. I think that yeah, I think for sure we allow users that maybe otherwise wouldn't have been able to do what they can do now with Elementor to participate. And I definitely believe that it drives growth. And I think, but again, commenting specifically on those numbers, I think that the entire world is kind of shaking right now. Post COVID, everything is strange, but yeah, we are, in terms of Elementor, we're growing, and we planning on keep on growing. And again, this is just by making sure that we deliver real value, to those users, to our users, that wherever we can, whether it's via the builder, whether it's using the cloud, and helping with the challenge of hosting your website, and with Strattic now, where larger companies that deal with kind of mission critical websites that require intense security and intense performance and stability to be able to use that.
It's quite amazing, really, and Miriam, you could probably speak to this as well, is that in a sense, the success of Elementor within WordPress has enabled this whole thing to happen. If Elementor had been modestly successful and had several million users less than it already does, then they wouldn't be able to go out and be the company that's going out and looking at possible purchases, in this case Strattic. So yeah, bravo. I mean, all round a fabulous achievement from the Elementor side. Just interested, and you may not have any insight on this, or you may wish to decline to answer the question, Amitai. Does this represent a sort of like a watershed? Because I don't know of anything else that Elementor has purchased on this size, but I was wondering if this is going to be a bit of a sea change. In other words, has Elementor, the company, now got to the point where it can start to bolster its offering by buying up different things, or the hosting companies, or the plugins, or the various other bits and pieces in the WordPress ecosystem, and dare I say it, maybe some things which are not in the WordPress ecosystem?
Yeah, I think that like Miriam said, this is Strattic is a very, very unique story. So right now we're focusing on the builder, and I don't think there's a lot of companies like Strattic, or persons like Miriam. And I think we've had a wonderful opportunity here, working with people that we know and trust, on a product that we believe in, with great vision. So this was the right move for us. But other than that, we will keep focusing on what we do.
Thank you very much. I've asked all the questions I want to ask. I was wondering from both of you if there was anything that you wished to get off your chest, or are you happy with everything that we've mentioned?
I'd like to say something about Elementor.
Please do.
So when we were working on our go-to-market at Strattic, like when we were independent, one of the strategies that we really wanted to be able to pursue was what's known as product-led growth. I don't know how familiar you are with it. It was pretty hot in the tech world for some time. It still is. And the idea there is that company grows by virtue of how amazing the product is and how much value it brings to its users. And then it kind of creates the cycle of word of mouth and community. And we succeeded with that to a certain extent from the perspective of thought leadership and community interaction and things like that, which is also an aspect of product-led growth. And also the fact is that our customers do love Strattic, and they share that with other people. They become kind of enthusiastic ambassadors within their circles. But if you look at Elementor's scale, and impact on the market and the web in general, it's basically because they've created a product that brings so much value to users that they want to use it, and then they want to tell other people about it. So a lot of people, might not appreciate that about Elementor, but the fact is that they grew so much and they have so many users because their product brings so much value to users. So it's exciting for me that we're joining a company that really, really helps their users and really brings so much value to them, and has succeeded in growing through this product-led growth type of approach, and because of the value of its product. And I'm excited to learn from them about that. That's just what I want to say about their scale.
Yeah, that's really nice. I mean, you're right. From somebody observing all the things in WordPress, as I'd like to do, there is no story like this. the growth of Elementor. It really is off the scale successful. It's been remarkable seeing it. In fact,
it's a great product.
Yeah, I remember picking up on it. Yeah, really, really early on, and thinking, oh, it's another thing. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
And then within sort of 6 months, it was pretty obvious that there was something special being created. And I think decisions made early on to jam in a ton of functionality into the free version was a really clever idea, which, you know, bootstrapped it into the lower atmosphere. And yeah, well, that's really kind of you to single that out, to sort of demonstrate the the mission statement of Elementor. That's lovely. Amitai, anything to add before we knock it on the head?
No, I'm good.
You're good. Okay, thank you very much. In that case, I will round off by saying, Miriam Schwab, Amitai Gat, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today and explaining about why Strattic was purchased by Elementor. That's brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, you. Nice being here.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed that. Really interesting to chat to Miriam and Amitai all about the acquisition of Strattic by Elementor. If you've got any thoughts on that, please head over to wpbuilds.com, search for episode number 284 and leave a comment there. Alternatively, you can go to our Facebook group. That's wpbuilds.com/Facebook, and you could leave a comment in the thread there as well. The WP Builds podcast was brought to you today by GoDaddy Pro. GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with The Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place. Invoice clients and get 30% off new purchases. You can find out more by going to go.me/WP Builds. Once more, go.me/WP Builds. And we thank GoDaddy Pro for their support of the WP Builds podcast. Okie dokie, we will be back next week. We'll have a podcast on Thursday, but we'll also have our This Week in WordPress show live 2 p.m. UK time. Head over to wpbuilds.com/live, and we'd love to have you there, joining in the comments with all of the other people. Okay, I hope that you stay safe this week. Bye-bye for now.